Okay, so here are just a few little shoulder stretches. So initially, just going to take the hand around the top of the shoulder and then slide it down the bicep. It's like a sling, so you're kind of hanging on, drawing the shoulder onto the body and then letting the arm relax and reach away. Going to then try and get the arm to come across the body, but actually stop the body from following it. So we're going to try and kind of keep the shoulder there and then bring the arm here. So you've got this little bit of a stretch through, kind of releasing tension. Sometimes we get quite close to the shoulders and they come up around the ears. Just trying to let that kind of release out, relax a little bit and let go. So up to a minute here and a minute on the other side. And then thinking about and you can do this standing or seated. Thinking about if this is tight, then this is probably tight. So we're going to stretch into these tissues down the sides and the back and the front of the neck and the jaw. Starting with a simple scaling stretch, we've got, so minute on either side with that one. And then this one, we're just doing 3 or 4, where we put the fingertips onto the temple. We lift up tall, tuck the chin a little bit, and it's kind of, we don't really want the head to be here. We want to try and get the head up and the spine long. So we've got that sense of lift and tension, but not strain. And then making this arm really heavy, letting it hang. So there's almost like a pull through there, through the down side of the shoulder. And then it's ear to shoulder, and we're breathing in. And we're trying not to look up or down, trying just to keep that sensible, plain, forward-looking position, letting the arm hang, and then come back. And we do 3 or 4. Inhaling, exhaling. And then we do exactly the same on the other side. So that's 4, 4. And then without the hands, we're going to take the ear to the shoulder on one side, and then take the gaze down towards the floor. Let the chin drop, let the back of the neck stretch out, and then take the head all the way up so that you come up in the side bend the other way, and then back into the middle. And then it's out, down, releasing, letting gravity do a lot of the work until you have to come back up and come back up that way. Now, really don't want the head to elevate or the chin to jut. So we're trying to keep that long neckline, letting the head drop, and then as the chin tucks in, we wrap around and back into center. And again, probably 4 one way, 4 the other way, and it's quite nice to alternate it because it does feel a little bit different either side. Sitting's quite good for the next couple. Initially, we're just going to kind of bring the forearms together and just kind of taking a breath out. We're going to tuck the chin and we're going to roll the rib cage over the elbows, and then coming back up on the inhale. It's not like a big drop forwards. It's more as though something is pulling the back of the rib backwards and up, and we're looking down at it. Inhaling to come back up. So that's the basic rib cage movement. We actually want to take the elbows across each other, or just cross like that and bring the backs of the palms together. So this shouldn't be straining anything. It should be really doable that you can get the backs of the palms to touch, and then you do that little roll forwards again. Once you've done one in one direction, we then open the arms out into aeroplane, breathing in there, and then crossing the arms the other way, and then doing that little roll forwards. And then coming back up, back into aeroplane. Now, this usually gets progressively easier, and we want to get to this point where we get the elbows to cross and possibly even get the hands to cross over each other as well. But if it's just that, that's perfect. Aeroplane in between, inhale, exhale, come again, and it's usually much tougher on one side than the other, and it's actually about releasing that tighter side more by finding the room, and that's where the little curl comes in and the arm stretch out comes in, because they're just changing the position of the bones and they're kind of finding their happy medium place. We then go into a little bit of, we were doing this thing with the head to stretch the neck, we were doing the shoulder to stretch the upper bit of the neck and that little bit of the rib cage. Now we're going to move this bit of the rib cage with the arms. So take the feet a little bit wider, and I want you to ground through both knees. We're going to put the right hand on the left knee, and then we're going to put the left hand could go behind you. So if you were on a chair, you could put it and hold on to the back of the chair. You could put it into the small of your back with the palm flat if you're on a stool or something like that. Or you could actually have it just resting the thumb and the first fingers on the collarbones. So it's kind of just find a relatively comfortable position. What I want you to do is have no kind of over movement or over tension in the shoulder. Grounding through the feet, pushing the knee out into the hand, pulling the hand to pull the knee in. So you've got this sense of activity coming across, diagonally across the torso. We usually let a little bit of weight go onto the hip in the direction of travel, and then we're going to open the rib cage out and turn the head and tuck the chin and stretch, inhaling, and then release it on the exhale. And again, 5 would be brilliant, and then 5 on the other side. So exactly the same idea, you're kind of pushing the knee out, you're kind of pulling the arm in. You're going to try and get that sense of lift, chin tuck, horizontal gaze line, look even out of the corner of the eye as you turn around, and then releasing back in. And then coming up into a standing position for a couple of exercises. I want you to think about chest expansion. So we're trying to get the breastbone and this front line of the rib cage to open out. Now, if you lift your jaw too quickly, this blocks the movement here, which then blocks the movement here. So we've got to try and keep the chin down and the short front of neck and long back of neck. The little fingers point backwards and the elbows point backwards with them. And what I want you to do is I want you to almost push your knuckles down and pull your elbows and little fingers back, tuck your chin, and as you do this, breathe in. And then slowly release as you exhale. So it's pretty much on 2 feet evenly, toe and heel. And try and get more out of here. So if you had like a dress shirt on, you'd be trying to split the top 3 or 4 buttons of that, trying to almost push them apart to get this to go. And the reason is this is all very much a cartilaginous tissue here, and with a breastbone in the middle to provide structure. And then this should be quite plastic and pliable, but it ossifies or gets more bony with age and not always moving through there. So every time we get it to open and close, it might feel really, really harsh and tight, but it does improve and it does become more mobile. This becomes easy, you get more range of movement. You're putting less tension on the shoulders either in this position or in this position. You can get a little bit of space to move into. Okay, breathing. So on top of that, if you just let your arms hang, when you breathe in, you'll feel that lots of layers in the body get more space between them, and that's kind of just to allow the volume of air to have somewhere to go in the body. It kind of tensions up the system. On top of that, you get a little lift in your shoulders. And then when you breathe out, if you finish your breath, you get a bit of release in your shoulders. It's really at the very end of the breath. So it's like almost like letting the glass gasp out. If you're like breathing like, it's all too much. It's not really going to relax anything. So it's always that sense of that sleeping baby, that sleeping puppy. So you want to breathe fully and completely, not leaving a little bit there. But you don't want to be kind of waking that thing up. So it's not very intense. It's very soft. It's very calm. It's very relaxed. We then go into the shoulder movement, which is, again, we're looking at rotating. So we want to just kind of let the body lean forwards and hang a bit heavy down to one side. So this is focusing clearly on this arm, this shoulder. What I want to do is I want to move the arm bone in the shoulder socket. I don't really want it to be this kind of big global movement from the shoulder complex. So we're keeping that very plain, very soft, very relaxed, very easy. And then we can just do like a simple arm rotation just to get that idea of the movement where it's coming from the glenohumeral joint. And then if you tap your arm, it should be kind of fluid and easy. It shouldn't be kind of like, it should be letting go, let it go. And then with that let go, we just do a few little circles, 4 or 5 in one direction, breathing as you do, and then reversing again. And they're about the size of a tennis ball. They're not very big at all. And it's almost trying to do less. And when you come up between the sets, you might feel that this arm is really long and really released, and this one's going to go like up here. So it is kind of, should be noticeable, the difference. Usually one side's a little bit tighter than the other. So kind of just feel like you try and relax it more. So it may never happen, but you know, that's the idea. Okay, and then we wanted to go into a little bit of a kind of a push and rotate away from the arm. So I'm kind of going with the hand on the wall, and this could be a door frame, this could be anything that you can put your arm up, and it might be higher or lower. I'm just going to check I'm still recording. Yeah. And I want this to be kind of in a comfortable alignment. The arm bone is vertical, yeah, but the shoulder may be elevated a fraction, or the elbow could be lowered a little bit. It just wants to be relatively comfortable. And then this arm stays where it is, and what we're trying to do is use the rotation of the body away from that arm to create a little bit of a stretch through here. So you're kind of opening up this tissue, and then you can come back into that closed position. And again, it's glenohumeral rotation we're looking for, not too much of anything else, but we don't really want too much shoulder retraction because that's going to elevate the shoulders. We just want it to be almost staying plain and rotating out. And ideally, that's why we use the wall, because we don't want the elbow to do the work and the rotation to happen in that plane. We want the rotation to happen in that plane. And then there's a couple of kneeling exercises. We've got the handstand preps. So either with the arms long and the knees behind the hips, we stretch backwards. Now I'm going to keep looking forwards a little, but I'm not going to look actually away. So it's kind of looking forwards just in front of the fingertips. And then as my elbows go down towards the ground, I'm going to keep them narrow. I'm not going to let them open out to the sides and the shoulders climb past my ears in that plane. I'm going to think more that the shoulders can glide past my ears, and I'm just kind of getting a bit of a stretch in the middle of my back. Now, if you're doing this, what's going to happen is you're only going to get this far because the shoulder's going to block it. So you've got to really be mindful of the elbows pointing down towards the floor, towards this direct in line with the arm bone itself. Then the next thing that possibly could happen, is this is usually quite tight and you're pushing down with your hands into the floor a little bit, overloading them, then the upper back kind of goes on, and then when you try and push down, you kind of stay in a bit of a round back shape, even though it feels like you're not. So the best thing to do is to have the knees kind of in front of the hips, so the weight is off the arms, you've got light hands. And then when you sink backwards, you should be able to feel almost a sense of ease through the shoulders. And kind of work progressively backwards with the knees until it's the tail going up rather than down, which is helping to create the long stretch through the upper back. And I call it handstand prep because if you can imagine, if you were doing a handstand, you wouldn't want your rib cage behind your fingertips. You'd want it to be on top of your arm bones so that it's nicely balanced. The last one's a bit, got a couple of elements to it, which is to thread the needle. So again, probably 5 or 6, and then taking the hand onto the floor underneath the other armpit, keeping this a little bit further away so you've got a bit of range of movement, bending the elbow down and dropping the ear to the floor, kind of resting down into that space there, and then coming back. So as you stretch the arm away, just kind of feel that you're resting on the crown of the head. You're supported, but not too much load through the top of the shoulder. It's kind of just more on the ear, temple, knees, yeah? And if that feels all right, and you feel, well, I could probably do a little bit more, it's not too heavy, it's not too uncomfortable in my arm, you could actually add an opening up to the ceiling with the other arm. But that really has to be done with a bit of care and a bit of caution. So maybe just do one, small one, a little bit. If it feels all right, do more. But think about the most important bit is the twist under. So again, just do a number of each of the exercises that feels relatively comfortable. If you can do the ones, do some of them every day, that'd be great if you have time. And if you don't, do maybe 1 or 2 of them if you're making a cup of tea or something. So good, thank you, and I hope that makes sense.